Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission for April 16th, 2026 to order. This meeting is being recorded, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphone. We'll now call the roll.
Good morning. For the record, the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission is not meeting today because they have no business. So for the City of Knoxville, Commissioner Blackburn. Here. Commissioner Midas. Here. Commissioner Bradley. Here. Commissioner Kessler. Commissioner Hearns.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Randazzo.
Here.
Commissioner Tillman.
Here.
Commissioner Kloss.
Here.
That's 8 present, sir.
Thank you. All right, we'll now swear in the speakers. If you plan to speak on any matter before the commission, would you please stand now and reply with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. You may be seated. All speakers are asked to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and must begin their remarks by stating their name and address for the record and also writing it in at the notebook at the podium. Any appeals of decisions made by this commission must be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. We'll now have approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right.
Can I make a motion to amend the agenda for today's meeting? We have a neighborhood representative for Old North Knox who's delayed, and we're hoping to shift that to after Scenic Drive.
Okay.
So I make a motion to shift Old North Knox after Scenic Drive.
Okay, that's all 3 cases, 1520 Fremont Place, 305 East Scott, and 505 East Scott?
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, so we'll amend that agenda, and then we'll move on to, first we'll move on to level 1 staff reports.
Okay, really briefly before the level 1 staff reports, an announcement on our end. So the City of Knoxville and Knox County Planning are updating our comprehensive plan, which is our long-range land use and transportation plan for the next 25 years. And we have a series of listening sessions on April 26th, 27th, 29th, and 30th. There are some flyers on the podium there, and then the Historic Zoning Commissioners have those. So I would encourage you guys to attend and participate. And then level 1 COAs. So at 704 Morgan Street, this is a revised scope of work from the application that was in front of y'all last month. The applicants had requested to demolish the chimney. So the new application is proposing they are going to repair that secondary chimney on the rear elevation, including the bricks, repointing the mortar, and new flashing around the chimney. So that's how that case was resolved. It was approved administratively as modified. At 800 Luttrell Street, the applicant is repairing and replacing the upper level windows on the south elevation in kind. They'll match the existing in materials, pane size, muntin size profile, and overall design, and then some mortar repair as well. At 1649 Dandridge Avenue, this is the guest house at the Mabry-Hazen landmark. The applicant is repairing and reconstructing the primary historic masonry chimney. At 1402 Hannah Avenue in Mechanicsville, there's a roof replacement. At 1011 Thompson Place, there's another roof replacement. And then at 241 East Scott Avenue, the applicant replaced some brick porch piers with concrete block piers that are clad in brick to support the front porch. And that's it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our certificates of appropriateness and staff reports. The first case is Scenic Drive, 1209 Scenic Drive.
Okay, so this is a new front driveway configuration. The driveway will extend from the original curb cut on Scenic Drive and extend west in a similar location as the existing driveway, and then wrap back east towards Scenic Drive closer to the house. With a rectangular paved motor court. So overall, the exterior rehab and additions to this building were approved in August 2024. The driveway was not addressed in that case file. The guidelines do discourage parking pads and circular driveways in front yards unless one to the rear is impractical or unsafe. So staff couldn't administratively approve this. The plan does not create a new curb cut off Scenic Drive. So you can see in the photos It's actually further over to the right there. It uses the existing curb cut, and so due to the site topography and the substantial front and side setbacks, the circular driveway will be minimally visible from Scenic Drive. The current driveway is not visible, and as you can see from the photos here, and then the new driveway is in the same location and then closer to the house. So staff's recommending approval of 4J26HC as submitted.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Good morning. I'm Ethan Fields with FE Trainer Construction.
Okay.
That was a very good description. I'm very happy that they're recommending approval. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Was there any neighborhood input for this item?
Yes. Robin Porter, the Scenic Drive neighborhood representative, said the lot sits up high from the intersection of Blows Ferry and Scenic Drive. It is not a concern that the driveway going in front of the house and around the back to exit in the same area is a concern. They have no problems with the proposed new driveway.
All right, any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? If not, we'll open the floor for commissioners to discuss.
This is pretty cut and dry. I'm going to make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll move on to Old North Knoxville in our modified agenda. First is 1520 Fremont Place.
There appears to be a different schedule than what we have.
We were going to go to Old North Knox.
Yeah, the pivot. That was the first motion.
We made a motion because the neighborhood rep has a dental emergency coming up, so.
Up. Oh, not down. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and so, again, I'm somehow still getting, okay. So this is the after-the-fact review of a major exterior rehabilitation. So almost all of the work that's going to be described has already been initiated or completed. So the applicant has removed all of the original wood windows. So based on street view images and past real estate listings, which you can see on the screen here, the house's windows included double-hung wood 3/1s, 2/2s, and 8-light wood casement windows on the facade's first story. And all of the windows included true divided lights. The applicants have installed new vinyl windows that include new multi-light grid between the glass windows and then single-hung 3/1 grid between the glass, and then also 1/1 single-hung vinyl windows on the side and rear elevations. They have enclosed a second-story window on the right side elevation. They have removed the original wood window trim, which you can see in the photos here, and installed a flat window trim of an unknown material. They removed patches of an existing faux grain asbestos shingle siding and installed in patches a smooth finished fiber cement siding. The chimney was removed sometime between February 2024 and February 2026. And a new rear deck was constructed. And then one scope of work that's not completed but requested is the proposed replacement of the exterior door with a fiberglass 3/4 light door with simulated divided lights, and that's in your application packet. So to summarize some of the staff findings, almost all the work has already been initiated or completed. So after receiving reports of work continuing on the house without a COA or building permits, plans review and inspection staff visited the property on March 11th, March 20th, and March 27th, and additional exterior work was completed between those three visits. You can see some of the dates on the screen. So the house had an array of original or historic windows to go to the real estate listing. They had multiple 2/2 double-hung wood windows, 3/1 double-hung wood windows, and true divided light wood casement windows on the front elevation. Those may have been a historic modification to the house. Those windows are visible in past imagery. There was no evidence provided related to the window's deterioration. At least one window was enclosed with new siding. That's on the second-story side elevation. It's very visible from the street. And then the windows that have been installed are all vinyl. There are grids between the glass, 3/1 single hung with grids between the glass, and then 1/1 single hung. Overall, the installed windows do not meet any of the neighborhood design guidelines, which recommend windows of the same size, same pane division, muntin depth, width, and profile, and then the same material, which were generally wood. They also say true divided lights should be used in replacement window sashes with more than one pane, and they say that windows may not be blocked in. So the flat vinyl or aluminum trim that was installed, you can see in the right photograph here, was a character-defining feature. It also does not reflect the profile or details of the original. The existing siding is an asbestos shingles cladding that is detailed at least since 1992, and then when the National Register nomination was drafted. It has a faux grain sort of detail that's typical of asbestos shingles. The installed siding is smooth finished fiber cement in a different size than the existing siding. There is wood lap siding visible below, and some of those photos date to March 20th. The applicant continued to install siding after plans review and inspection staff visited the site on March 11th and March 20th. Guidelines typically recommend that replacement siding duplicate the original, but in-kind repairs to non-historic siding in small patches are typically approved. The installed siding does not reflect the existing in finish or size. Fiber cement shingles that reflect the design thickness and size of asbestos shingles are available. They've been used for small repairs in other historic districts like Mechanicsville. The chimney that was removed without a permit or a COA sometime between February 24 and 26. You can see the sagging roof line that's visible where it was removed. Guidelines do recommend that chimneys be retained and repaired. In the opinion of staff, the removed chimney is not a major character-defining feature of the house, though the stuccoed chimney and the brick masonry chimney on the rear elevations should be retained. Decks require historic zoning approval and a city permit. The deck generally meets the design guidelines, but there are simple square posts that would be preferable for compatibility instead of the small metal posts. And then the door to be removed is not original to the house, most likely. The proposed door is a 3-light fiberglass door with simulated divided lights, which don't meet the design guidelines. So we can talk about this further, but staff's recommending denial with prejudice of the installed windows, the enclosed window, and the removed window trim and the siding. The applicant should reapply to the Historic Zoning Commission with new proposed windows that meet the Old North design guidelines, including the opening that has been enclosed, select a revised design and material for the window trim, and select a new siding material that better reflects the existing. Staff recommends denial of the proposed door, and then after the fact approval of the chimney removal and the new deck.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? If you have anything to add, you can approach the podium and say your name and address for the record.
Yes, good morning. Charity Honeycutt, and then this is Amanda Furlow. This is my personal home, and then we started renovating this together. We just run a design business. So one of the main reasons, honestly, cost that was associated with the windows.
Yeah, they're the same size, same panes, all of those things. The sizing didn't change. But to be able to afford to make this house livable again, you cannot, like, we just couldn't do wood windows, or we could not repair them. The cost was 3 times as much.
They were leaking inside the home. There was termite damage. Like, they needed to be fully replaced.
And we were getting squatters in the home.
All right, anything else to add?
The front door, I think that one of the things that was said on that, not meeting the guidelines and all that, was that just the material that we need to, was that the issue, or what was the issue for the design guidelines on the front door?
So the issue with that one was the simulated divided lights. So similar to the windows, the design guidelines discourage having these grids in between the glass for Old North. And so the recommendation would be just to select a different door, and we can provide guidance on that.
Okay, as far as the windows go on that, moving forward, obviously, these are what we can afford to put in the home. So how do we move forward with that?
We don't
Which-
really, sorry.
I'm sorry, can I ask him a question? Which
Yeah.
one of you are Miss Honeycutt?
Oh, yes. No,
Oh,
I mean, that's a very.
I'm sorry, I have a question for you.
Oh, yes.
In November 2017, you signed a document which was a property disclosure that clearly stated to you that this property was in a historic district that had been declared historical by a government authority. It stated that such permissions must be obtained before making any type of improvements, aesthetic changes to the property. Checked yes, and you signed off on it. Can you tell me why, after signing that and being fully disclosed and acknowledging that you knew that this was a historic district of which would have to have government approval, that you went ahead and did the improvements anyway without going through the property authorities?
I thought we were just changing,
Like,
colors.
like truly, I knew that we could change colors. I did not realize that it was honestly a sense of material. When we read the guidelines, it was same pane, same size, just different material. The wood, the vinyl. There's several other vinyl windows throughout the historic overlay
And that were already in the house.
that were already in the home.
I think my question is, you signed off on a document before you purchased the home that you understood that it was in a historic district under government authority of which you would have had to acquire permission before making changes. I was asking, why didn't you seek the permission before making changes?
We thought that if it was the same size, same panes, that it was okay. That
So
it
you
wasn't-
decided not to ask permission?
It was just, yeah,
We
we
did
did not
not.
know.
We did not.
I mean, she knew, I don't know about you, but Ms. Honeycutt knew because she signed off on it. So you just decided not to ask for permission, according to the guidelines?
According to guidelines, if that is how you see it.
Just for clarification, Amanda Furlow, can you state your address for the record as well?
My address?
Yes.
9 Emery Place.
Okay, thanks.
My home? Is that what you're asking?
People say their home, their work, it's, for the
Yeah,
record,
my
we need
home,
name
9
and
Emery
address.
Place.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah, my home's 9 Emery
Okay,
Place.
thank you. We can have more commission applicant discussion, but I wanted to have, to hear some neighborhood input as well, if that's all right. Is our neighborhood representative present?
Oh,
Y'all may take a seat for a moment.
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue. I appreciate you accelerating the agenda. I will have one less tooth at 10:30 today. So the neighborhood has reviewed the application, and we are in agreement that these violate our guidelines tremendously. We meet every single month and for a public meeting, and every single month I state, if you see someone doing work, contact me. We want to work with our neighbors, not against our neighbors. I meet with people regularly to help them interpret the guidelines. I met with the Martins yesterday, and I've talked to them several times. We are available. This problem or this situation, as sympathetic as we may be to it, it was caused by not getting permits, because if permits were pulled, Lindsay would have relayed my contact information to the owners. And so as much as we can sympathize with this, this is a clear violation of our guidelines and our principles. And so we agree with staff recommendation that all the windows have to be replaced. We agree with the siding, we agree with the door. The only area where we disagree with staff is we understand that the chimney was probably taken down to for interior space purposes. In the past, when people have done this, we have had a faux chimney installed on the roof of the house. And this could be easily done here, especially since it's stucco. We're not gonna die on the sword for that one, but we do want the windows replaced and all the other guidelines followed. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
My question was actually for our permitting department. Mark, if you can enlighten us a little bit, it looks like the report said there were 3 visits to the property. Can you tell us what that entailed?
Yeah, I have a detailed timeline and notes from the inspector that went out. Unfortunately, he's not here today, so I'll just speak on his behalf. But on 3/11/2026, we had a complaint issued to our department for work being done without a COA or permits. We completed a site visit later that day. Our inspector spoke with the contractors currently installing the windows. They then made telephone contact with the applicant, advised her of the requirements and the need to secure a COA and permits for interior construction, requested immediate work stoppage to obtain approval and permits. Apparently that conversation went well, so they did not issue an NOV that day, which is a notice of violation. And then later that day, planning received an application for the Historic Zoning Commission. There was still no plans in review for permitting. Let's see here, 3/19, there was a second complaint that was received by our department on 3/20/2026. A second site visit was completed. The inspector spoke directly to the contractors, finishing build of a 6-foot privacy fence, advised them to stop working. Also took note of a new wooden deck in the rear yard. Our inspector called the applicant, stated the same about working without a COA or permits, and so that an NOV would be issued if work continued. There was a plan record submitted, so plans review submitted by the applicant for an over-the-counter approval, which was then denied by our zoning review staff because it needs a COA for all the work that was proposed in the scope. We then mailed out a notice of violation later that day. On 3/26/2026, a third complaint came into our department stating that there was work still ongoing at the property. So later that day, a third inspection was completed by our inspector. The contractors were now installing exterior siding, which is part of that photo you see above. Inspector spoke with the contractors and the applicant again via the phone. And then there was an NOV issued. On 3/27/2026, a plans review record was submitted to our department for the scope of work, except there was no drawing submitted for review. This plans review started April 2nd, which was about 2 weeks ago, and there have yet to be any drawings for plans review.
Okay, and you said an NOV, a notice of violation?
Notice of violation.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so a notice of violation is basically a written report that says that you are in violation of the zoning code. For this specifically, it was working without permits and working without a certificate of appropriateness. Once we issue a few notice of violations, and if they're still in violation of the zoning code, then we issue a citation to municipal court.
A citation, you said a citation for, is that a fine or?
Yes, it can carry up to $50 a day since the initial violation as it progresses onward.
It's a citation to city court. That's where they bring me in and there's a hearing, and then the judge can decide they can do up to $50 a day violations per violation. So.
Okay, and that hearing hasn't happened yet?
Correct, right.
Okay.
Yeah, we have not issued a citation as of today.
And
just
you
notices a violation.
You said advised to stop work. Is that different from a stop work order or?
So our department does not issue direct stop work orders. A notice of violation is basically your written a report that tells you, hey, you are in violation, you need to stop. But it's just not called a stop work order, as the building department issues stop work orders.
Okay. And has the building department issued that to your knowledge?
I do not believe that there has been a stop work order issued by the building department, as they let our department handle this enforcement.
Okay.
Zoning department, sorry.
So advised to stop work.
Correct.
And just as I understand it, work continued in various portions.
Correct.
Okay.
Based on my record, started 3/11 and went onwards until 3/26. So
Okay.
2 weeks.
And then at some point, I assume the applicant started talking to historic zoning, and that's how we have the application here. Was this application made mostly by your department, Lindsay, or is this, most of the time, an applicant puts together a scope of work, drawings, elevations of some kind, and they submit it to Lindsay? Is that?
That's correct. Typically, we request that applicants provide all of that information. The initial application that was submitted was a rendering of the house that was, I believe AI, it wasn't accurate. We have mostly gathered the photos, and then we received, after the application was filed, we received a window specification packet and a proposed door. But the rest of the elements we sort of pieced together from photographs.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, just for the applicant's knowledge, most of the time we are submitted documentation. It varies by the scope of the project. And then this commission's job is just thumbs up, thumbs down. That's part of the process. It's not usually as collaborative with detailing work that's been done, previous photos. We're not usually pulling up old like Google Street Views for houses. And thank you, Mark, for that. Any other commissioners have questions?
I'm assuming after this, the next step is to get this back permitted, so to speak? Inspected, I mean.
Once they had a COA issued, then the permit could be issued.
I've got a quick question. Did we have any evidence that they had submitted? I know they said that there was a lot of damage and rot and termite. Was there anything submitted to show that?
No, we received some photos of the windows that had already been removed, so the one on the left, and then verbal comments about rotting, et cetera, which is not typically the scope of work that we would get about window replacements.
And kind of another permit clarification. For the after-the-fact chimney removal and new deck, is that an over-the-counter permit?
It would still need a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay.
We would not issue a permit until they had that certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. A quick question for the applicant. Do you have a general contractor's license?
Can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry,
please?
I know it's a small question to make you walk all the way up to the mic.
The people that have worked on the house, they definitely are all licensed, all the things. And then just to clarify on the work that was being done, that the work that guys that they were still doing was just cleaning out the house. It wasn't like they were sitting there, continued to do things that, and I even talked to, I forget who it was that I talked to, maybe Jeff, because he was like, they can continue to build the fence. He was like, the fence is no issue. And so I had them to continue to build the fence. And then I had them cleaning out the basement, all the junk out of the house, all of those things. And so that's what they were working on. And he was like, that's fine, getting all the debris and all of that stuff out of the home. And we had the home cleaned, like all of those things where we were waiting on basically the permit. So that's the work that was being done. Also, the cement board that was around the windows, I think someone said it was wood. It was not. That was cement board. It had been cement board for the longest time. Also, the siding on there does match the old siding. It's not smooth. It has the same texture, and it matches perfectly. You probably can't see it because it's not painted yet, but that was one thing. We took the material to like 3 different stores, matched it up, made sure it was correct, all of that. So we were also on the windows, things like that. They're not different sizes. I think that was stated. They're all the same size. So we didn't change that either. And then I even asked, which I don't even know if this, I think I talked to Lindsay about this. It was like the wood on the front post is rotted. I was like, we need to change that out too. I was like, but it'll go back with the same design. And then I don't know who said it, but said that there was no plans that were submitted. When I talked to whoever it was, they said, if you're not changing any of this, like the elevation and what it looks like other than the windows you want to be black, you want to do a new historic color, they said that is fine. They were like, you're not changing it, you're just making it updated where it was livable again. So that's why I was told there was no plans that needed to be submitted because we weren't changing things structurally.
Yeah, the permitting department, what they require in plans and scope varies. But my initial question was, do you have a general contractor?
I don't, but the people that worked on the homes are all permitted, all certified, all the things.
But specifically, I assume for just for the after-the-fact approval of chimney removal and new deck, will that require a GC license for that permit? Or,
I believe it would.
okay, that'd be a state
Yeah, that's.
general contractor.
Yeah, that's no issue. That can, I mean, if I need to add that, I can. That
Okay.
was, because I've already submitted the drawings and all of that for the deck.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And then the reason why the chimney was taken out is water was getting into the home. It was causing issues with the roof. So the roof company took that out, patched it so we wouldn't have water within the home anymore.
Okay. I wanted to clarify, in case we were to approve staff recommendations for a part of it and not the other part, that wouldn't cause an issue in permitting. Okay.
And I guess my question is on the windows, them saying they want them replaced. That's again, like I stated before, a cost issue. Like,
The Historic Zoning Commission, the design guidelines do not take into account the cost of items.
well, I mean, we can't just let this home go down, you know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. So it's like, what is the issue there? I mean, like, wood windows are $60,000 for that home. The home doesn't even appraise for that.
Each of the neighborhood design guidelines have a little section that speaks to the windows, and it does speak to cost, even though that's not what we do as a commission, but it does discuss how repairing and replacing can be a huge cost savings.
It's not.
It's
$60,000.
Please don't interrupt the commissioners, please.
Our job, if we were to ever go against the guidelines, the burden of proof would be to show why they needed to be replaced. But then I wanted to speak to, there's 5 points about replacement windows. And the only one that you've spoken to is number 2, where it says they should be the same overall size. But it doesn't stop there. It's with the same pane division, the same mutton depth, width, and profile. And so it's not just the size of the hole that the window goes into, but the depth that's important as well. And a lot of times vinyl is not able to replicate that. And then it creates issues when you go to put the trim back up or the siding. Now you've kind of got this flat face on the house. And so then again, you get back to sticking with the original windows can be a cost savings in the long run.
And these guidelines, they're written painstakingly by our neighborhood and approved by city council with the idea that they are a plan. It's not, we don't typically review things after something's already been done. You know, obviously, spending however much you did on windows that don't meet the guidelines isn't ideal for anyone, but we usually don't look at them afterwards. Usually we catch it when someone applies for, if say they don't know what historic guidelines are, new to the neighborhood, whatever have you, they apply for a permit for their work, and the permitting department puts them in contact with our planning department to let them know about the guidelines, and we can help submit a plan before any work is done and before damage is done, before money is spent.
I just wanted to ask Lindsay if on the staff recommendations for the after-the-fact approval of the chimney, I heard the neighborhood rep, I think, talk about a faux chimney. Is that going to be part of that stipulation, or is it just get that, or does that come back into play?
So the commission has the opportunity to change that staff recommendation if y'all feel strongly about the reconstruction of a full or a faux chimney. The initial recommendation from staff was just after the fact approval of its removal, based on it not being a hugely character defining, but also the design guidelines do recommend retaining chimneys. So that's y'all's call.
Thank you. So what is their path forward, I guess, given all that has happened now? Right, because obviously you need to know what's next.
Based on the staff recommendation. So the staff recommendation would guide them to resubmit to the Historic Zoning Commission a new application for new windows. So y'all would have the capacity to review the replacement windows to find ones that better meet the design guidelines. They would also show a revised window trim, not the flat vinyl window trim, but most likely one that would replicate what was there originally. And then the siding, and then, so they would have to submit a new application to the Historic Zoning Commission.
So when you say the window trim being flat,
So if you can see in the photos here, what was removed is more of a historic window trim. There's typically some, you probably really can't see that, but I can provide you detailed photographs afterwards. There's depth there. There's projecting sills. There's casing that comes out. And then what was installed, you can see here, are just flat boards. And we can see it on the next slide as well.
because they're not done with the work yet.
Right, but it looks like this is relatively complete. So the new window trim that has been installed is this flat panel that goes around it.
Yeah,
And that
that's-
is different in, it doesn't have the window sills and the depth that you can kind of see in these photographs here.
That doesn't have to do with the trim, that has to do, it's the same cement trim. And so they just add another border around it. That's how you create that look.
Okay, well, so that's something if you were gonna revise how it was installed, so if what is, sorry, I'm trying to pull these up. So if what is done here is not finished and there was gonna be some sort of detail element that's applied to it to
Yeah.
create, then that could be resubmitted to the commission based on the staff recommendation.
mean-
But we would require additional documentation instead of just the applicant saying that it's done or not done.
I've personally had a shipping container of windows arrive to a job site that didn't have the right projected sill, and yeah, that was a painful day. Like, that is something you maybe can do with a wood element put on the outside, but typically that's part of the wood window package. But again, that's a detail you can submit to help to the commission, and Lindsay can help you with as well. Does the commission want to discuss a faux chimney, or we can move forward without? I personally don't, I'm pretty neutral / don't really care about them. We've done them in this neighborhood in the past. We're talking about a 2-by and plywood structure on the roof with perhaps a peel and stick brick that doesn't have a lot of weight, that imitates a chimney element. It's not in the guidelines to do faux chimneys, but we've approved them in the past as a compromise, especially when they've already been removed.
My personal thoughts are that there are much more egregious violations that we should be concerned about than that.
Fair.
I'm not sure how we could approve it too without seeing the looks and materials of it.
Makes sense. And considering staff is recommending after the fact approval of this one, that seems fine with me. All right, any other discussion? If not, open the floor for a motion.
If I could make a suggestion, if the commission is leaning against the staff report on any one of these items, it might be worthwhile to go through each recommendation as its own vote. If not, if you all are in full agreement, obviously you can do a full motion to approve for staff. But just if there's anything that you're wanting to change, it might be good to set that out as a separate motion, just because this one is so complicated.
For the motion on the denial with prejudice, is the motion to deny with prejudice based on staff recommendation?
Well, you haven't made
Is
a
that-
motion yet.
But
I'm
that's what
asking if one were to make a motion.
Yeah, that would work. Uh-huh. And without prejudice just means they can't come back within a year on it, yeah.
All right, I'll make the motion to deny with prejudice based on staff recommendation, but I will strike the, and includes after the fact approval of the chimney and the new deck, unless someone disagrees. I think we've got enough issues without worrying about that.
So that's a full staff recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we would be approving based on staff recommendation.
The second part. Well, yeah.
The whole
Yes,
thing?
the whole thing.
All right, we have a motion.
Do you agree with the staff recommending denial of the proposed door also?
Yes.
Was that, okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Do we
thank
have
you.
have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay,
Thank
and we'll
you.
follow up with you about next steps.
All right, next we'll go to 305 East Scott Avenue. I know jumbling the order messed up your whole system.
Right. This case involves a rear addition and exterior rehabilitation. The second-story addition will be installed above an existing one-story addition, and it will feature a front gable roof with partial cornice returns and an exterior of in-kind wood-lap siding and corner boards to the existing house. There will be 2 double-hung windows and a fixed window in the gable field on the rear elevation, and 1 double-hung window on the right elevation, which will be made of either wood or fiberglass and will feature in-kind trim and sills to the house. An original brick chimney, 4 windows at the corners of the existing one-story addition, and 2 second-story windows on the existing house will be removed to allow for the addition. The exterior rehabilitation scopes include repairs and tuck pointing of the brick foundation, repairs and in-kind replacement of the wood-lap siding, and the installation of a fixed window in the gable fields on the front and side elevations, in kind to the one proposed for the addition. 305 East Scott Avenue is a contributing resource to the local overlay and the National Register District. The brick foundation should be repaired following National Park Service Preservation Brief 2. Although the design guidelines encourage installing new windows on secondary elevation, the windows proposed for the gable field on the front elevation is compatible with the building's design, will match the windows installed in the gable fields of the secondary elevations, and will not require the removal of original features. The existing one-story addition was originally a back porch that was enclosed prior to 1983, so the removal of the corner windows to allow for the new addition is appropriate. The property is a corner lot, so it would be challenging to place an addition where it would not be visible from the street. The placement and massing of the second-story addition align with guideline recommendations, and it could be removed without adverse effect on the historic house. The removal of an original chimney is proposed to allow for the addition, which is discouraged. The chimney is only partially visible from Cornelia Street due to the grade change for the sidewalk, its relatively short height, and a mature oak tree. In the opinion of staff, removing the chimney is appropriate to facilitate the proposed addition, which features a roofline compatible with the original house, and the chimney does not significantly contribute to the building's historic character. The addition employs a roof that is compatible with the house and reflects the canted front gable massing on the facade. It does not include the dentil detailing at the eaves or the cant in the gables present on the facade and side elevation, which will differentiate the addition as new. The addition's window placement and profiles are appropriate. The application proposes using either wood or fiberglass windows on the addition and in the gable fields of the rear, side, and front elevation. Fiberglass windows have been approved as replacements on a non-historic rear addition in the overlay, but they were denied as wholesale replacements for a mix of original wood and vinyl windows. In the opinion of staff, fiberglass windows are appropriate because they're concentrated on the rear addition, do not replace any original windows, and would distinguish the gable field windows as non-historic. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 4F26HC, subject to the following conditions: providing final window specifications for approval, and repairs to the brick foundation to be in accordance with National Park Service Preservation Brief 2.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Here, Sarah Martin, 800 Luttrell Street.
Anything to add?
Really just here to answer questions. There is one actual additional question that the client requested that we bring up, which is not represented in the application, but you can see visually from this lower rendering. On the old portion of the house, the original, we don't know whether this is original or not, but you'll see at the top there's a little dental trim that little repeated wood motif. The client asked if it would be okay for them to consider adding that to the addition. We didn't show it on the sketch because we often don't replicate. We make it a little simpler on the addition. As their design partner, I'm fine with either one, but I decided to pass along the question. Otherwise, it's just the application as written.
Okay. Anything from the neighborhood?
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue. We appreciate Open Door Architecture and the owners for working with us on this application. We agree with staff recommendation, and we would also support an amendment to add the dental moldings cohesively through the addition.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on an item? Sorry, I forgot to ask that in the last application. Okay. Commission discussion?
Quick question for Sarah. Good morning.
Morning.
Does the applicant have any questions about the recommendation from the staff?
No, she did not.
Okay.
Will you put the staff recommendation back up? I have a question about that. How do we verify when it says for approval on number 1 and on number 2? Who's going to confirm that that's been done?
So the windows would be sent to staff for approval.
Okay.
And then typically we just ask folks to describe the mortar mix that they're going to use when they're repairing historic brick.
Okay.
So Melinda, it would be for both of those to come back to staff for approval?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, okay.
And you said you all had no issues with that?
No, that's fine. What we typically do is price a couple of window alternatives and go with a compliant one that's a good price match. It's usually Marvin Elevate. That's almost always what we spec, but we would mail a spec or email a spec in for approval. And we usually go with a type O mortar mix, which is the historic river sand. So we would spec all that out and send it in.
Would you prefer, or would the applicant or client prefer approval of that dental or just the option to approve it? Does it matter?
I think the option would be good.
Okay.
If it's clear to do one or the other, she might have a slight preference for approving it being added.
Personally, I could see arguments for having it and not having it as a vestige or story about the addition that doesn't match, or matching it could be more cohesive. All right. Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make one if there's no further comment. I would like to approve based on staff recommendation, and let's add a number 3, which gives the applicant the option to add the dental molding on the new addition.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next we will move to 505 East Scott.
Okay, so this is the proposed replacement of the existing wood board and batten and beadboard siding and trim on a historic outbuilding. The applicant is proposing to replace the wood siding with new wood in a board and batten pattern, and then removing the beadboard and trim detail on the facade, which is the south elevation of the carriage house, and replacing that with just a straight board and batten. So the carriage house is a contributing outbuilding listed on the National Register nomination. The application text does include information on fiber cement siding, but that's not actually requested in this application. The beadboard and trim details are character-defining features. Has not been sufficient evidence that that beadboard and trim is a non-historic modification. The applicants have submitted some after-the-fact information here that I'll let them speak to with some photographs on the right related to potential modifications. But when the staff recommendation was drafted, typically high-style historic outbuildings do have additional detail elements, such as siding, trim, or roof details, and beadboard is used in exterior applications, including porch ceilings. There are no COAs issued for this to be modified since the overlay was created in 2003. The application includes deterioration and rot on the siding, and so based on that evidence of deterioration, repair and in-kind replacement would be appropriate. The renderings include modifications to the horizontal trim boards locations. All existing trim details and dimensions should be replicated if they are replaced. So the staff recommendation is approval of repair and in-kind replacement of the wood exterior, including replicating all detail elements, and that recommendation includes denial of the removal of the facade's beadboard and trim details on the facade.
Thank you. Is
Good
the
morning.
applicant present? Anything to add?
Yes, just a few things. Megan Martin, 505 East Scott Avenue. This is my husband, Jonathan. You can introduce yourself if you like.
Assume the same address.
We do, yes.
Yes. I know, it's a formality. I have to interrupt people
Not
all
yet.
the time.
Okay, so I think we agree with everything, the one exception being the removal of the beadboard, and this is kind of an evolving story. So there has been some beadboard removed from our other sister structure carriage house on the property. There is a lot of salvaged beadboard in our bathroom, so potentially that's where it went. After we saw the staff recommendation for denial, we reached out to our neighbor and neighborhood liaison, Sean, and he came over. He actually suggested that we pull some of that trim off to see if, in fact, the beadboard was original, because I think that was the basis of the original denial, was whether or not that beadboard detail was original. You can see from these photos, it's clearly not original. It doesn't really solve the whole story of the property. But based on what we've seen in the recommendation, it does refute the basis upon which several of the guidelines were cited for denial of our application. And specifically, that would be E3, 6, and 8. Those all rely on the assumption that the beadboard is original, and it's clearly not original. So we are in the process now of doing a lot of deferred maintenance, not just deferred maintenance from us. We've been there for over 6 years, but from previous owners. This is clearly in need of repair. We don't have any issue with using wood. We prefer hardy board because we think it's a superior product, and for sustainability and also cost effectiveness over the life of the property. It would be our preference. But we might not stay in the property, so we're fine with using wood. It's going to be a more cost-effective material in the short term. So really at issue is whether or not we have to replicate the beadboard. And one of the issues that we have with replicating the beadboard, or just replicating the design precisely as it is currently, is it wasn't done well. Like the trim that's up there framing it in, the proportions are off, the heading above the doors are off. When Sean was out yesterday and we were examining the structure, we realized, which we knew this, but Sean confirmed it, that the eastern portion of this structure is an addition anyway. It wasn't original. So really nothing on this side is original. So it's just speculation, basically. We're trying to piece together the story. Us as the property owners, to have a uniform look, have beadboard on this elevation, it would match the other structure on our property. In my eyes, a lot better. There is a door on that property, so we're again speculating that potentially there was a door on this side at some point, but there's no evidence of that. So we're just kind of piecing it together.
Thank you. Any input from the neighborhood?
Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue, and I want to thank the applicants for reaching out to me so we could workshop a potential solution. As mentioned, the eastern portion of that structure you're seeing there, that entire door, anything below the shed roof line to the right is new construction. It's on a block foundation. Anything on the left matches the sister carriage house on the property. The sister carriage house does have carriage house doors that are beadboard, and so a speculation on my part, which can't be proven, was that when they replaced the siding, they were trying to emulate the sister carriage house. When it comes to replacing the right-hand door with a window, we are in support, the neighborhood is. When it comes to the condition of the wood that's currently there, I'm never a proponent, or I'm rarely a proponent of wholesale replacing of siding. That's only being held up by paint. They painted rotted wood, so I can support all the replacement there, or the neighborhood does, not me. I can't speak for myself. We do think that there might be an alternative solution to emulate the beadboard carriage house doors while providing everything that the owners want. But that's up to you to decide and not for me. Oddly enough, even though we prohibit hardy board. The neighborhood was all in support of changing our guidelines sometimes to support that. Being a commissioner myself in the past and sitting here now, it's a very slippery slope. So I will leave that decision to you, but it would be hard to enforce any guidelines if we were to supersede them at this point in time. So what questions do you have for me? And I will try to answer them.
Speak to the band too.
Oh, there has been lots of remodeling on this house over time, and there has been a proposed solution on the bottom where there's a proposed band that harmoniously wraps the entire structure. We are not necessarily opposed to that. That's a minor feature. Most beadboard does have proposed bands. Exactly where they sit, whether it's off by 2 or 3 inches, the neighborhood's really indifferent about that.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, any questions? We just got to give Rick a report here. Personally, I find your forensics about the building very compelling, and I hope that was a fulfilling process and not just a tedious deal. That's part of owning a historic home. I think that's part of the magic, is trying to figure out when things were done and why people did the things they did to these homes. So in light of the newer evidence after the staff report was written, I find it compelling to replace back with board and batten, and that the beadboard wasn't original, but open to other thoughts from commissioners.
Sean, on the removal of the beadboard and trim, what, just up or down? Yes or no?
It's not original. There's no question about that. Whether there's a question of whether there was door on the original carriage house, it'd be absurd to believe that there was never a carriage house door there. It's a carriage house for a reason. And it was likely beadboard to match the sister carriage house. At this point in time, the entire footprint of the structure has been modified. So we're sort of in a situation of what's the best solution with what we are left with at this point in time. I have my personal preferences. The neighborhood agreed with a proposed faux beadboard carriage house door. However, that's not in the application. And so in this case, we don't feel incredibly strongly on either. I have my personal preferences, but those are my own.
Thank you. And I also want to comment, while I really appreciate and encourage stern letters to elected officials, we are a volunteer body, and we actually do not have the power to change guidelines in that we are just citizens. That is a Sean and his task force.
Sean and his team.
Yeah, the subcommittee for the neighborhood, which that is a long and difficult process that goes through city council, through this room, multiple drafts.
I started the conversation with the neighborhood too, so.
That sounds great. I appreciate
I
that.
have it on good authority. There was a draft done a few years ago. That might be helpful. A few years ago. Yeah.
I thought it was really helpful, the additional information that you all provided after the fact, to kind of show the history and the fact that it looks like the beadboard wasn't original. So, I mean, I'm comfortable going in with the board and batten based on the information that you all provided.
Are we ready for a motion?
When you make the motion, could you specify whether they can change the right-hand door to a window? Because
wasn't in the application.
yeah, it wasn't in the application, but it's a proposed solution that would fit the structure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we sort of workshopped that yesterday. We're talking with Sean, that door that's on the newer part of the addition, we were talking about just removing it altogether and placing a window consistent with the rest of the structure.
Right, that's not in the application, so I don't know that we can. I think that's something we would want to see.
I'm trying to look at the photos and figure out which photo are you referring to first?
It would be on my right, that far
right.
door.
you're right.
I guess.
And,
also they're gonna be
Yeah, it's your
their
right.
right,
Sorry,
yeah.
all right. So you're right, the top photo or the bottom photo?
Top.
Top photo.
Left.
Which window would become a door? No, or a door become a window.
Become the window.
It's the south elevation, so the two doors that you see on the left-hand side, top and bottom.
Uh-huh.
On the right-hand door would be replaced to a window.
Okay, so the one that doesn't have the pyramid roof above it?
That's right. Flat roof.
Okay. That would change to a window to match the opposite elevation, I'm guessing?
Or I guess close to this one down here in the bottom right.
Okay. Is that, I guess?
That's going to be the only historic windows left, those on the bottom right and top right.
Could that final window approval be like a staff approval?
That's the recommendation you guys made, yes.
Okay.
I do have one question too about that band. These are AI photos, so they're not precise, but as Lindsay noted, on this, the top right, there is a small band. When we understand that there's going to be a seam when they replace this, so we're planning to cover that seam with a band wherever that happens to be. I mean, I guess they're 8-foot boards.
It's very close.
But we're kind of agnostic about that, just trying to be practical about what's likely to be required when they're doing the construction.
I think it's probably going to be 8 foot, like
Yeah.
you described. Ready for a motion?
I'm trying to think of how to phrase this,
Yeah, I
given
know.
changes here. What's the best way because it says replication of all elements. If we're allowing for the board and batten, it's not really in-kind replacement at that point.
Mhm.
So I make a motion to approve replacement of the beadboard and trim details with new wood on the exterior. With the added point that you discussed about the window on the south elevation, the door becoming a window would need to come to staff for approval.
I think that's the northern elevation.
I think I
And
miscited
it's the door
it.
without the house numbers on it.
Correct.
I think would be a better way to clarify that. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a south elevation. I've got it improperly noted there.
If you could specify board and batten wood replacement.
Okay, do I need to restate that all again?
Yes,
or can we
please.
just add
Thank
that?
you.
I make a motion to approve installation of board and batten siding on the interior, replacing the sections of beadboard. Did I say interior? I mean exterior. Sorry, there's a whole lot going on here.
Howie,
This is
can
why
I-
it's better to revise through
Can I help you out here?
the process,
Okay.
yes.
Motion to replace the beadboard and trim with new board and batten on the exterior. Is that what
And
you're trying to
with
say?
the door to window to become, or to come back for staff approval.
And that to be wood.
I'm out on that one.
All right. All right. We've got a motion. It took us a minute to get there, but we have it, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I truly appreciate you accommodating my appointments. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move on to Edgewood Park City, 2112 Jefferson Avenue.
Okay. Fear we lost our applicant. So this is an application that was postponed since the March 2026 meeting. And so this is the same application with further information provided by the applicant. So they are proposing to remove the original wood siding and corner boards and install a fiber cement lap siding with a 4-inch exposure and a smooth finish. They are replicating the trim in the gable fields with smooth finished hardy panels and a trim to reflect the existing design, and they will retain the existing window and door trim, corbels, and soffits. And so the applicants have proposed some additional information, including a rendering of the structure, and they have clarified that the window trim, door trim, and decorative corbels will not be removed. The revised rendering depicts the gable field replicating the existing detail and clarifies the detail elements to be retained. So just as a reminder, the siding that is proposed to be removed is a original a novelty siding, a double teardrop siding with an exposure that's smaller than 4 inches. And so the siding and trim is a character-defining element of the house. This is not something typically manufactured as a default by a lumber supplier. The guidelines recommend that fiber cement board be used as a replacement for wood only when the wood has deteriorated beyond repair. So the commission asked for additional information from the applicant, and they have submitted some of the photos that are on your screen now that show wood rot and deterioration on some of the ends and in the gable fields. And then it's where the siding boards and corner boards intersect and close to the ground line. So in the opinion of staff, the siding does not appear to have deteriorated beyond repair. The application has also clarified that the proposed replacement siding would feature a 4-inch exposure. So that was a question in the last application. So the staff recommendation hasn't changed. Staff recommends that denial of the proposed siding replacement and approval of repair to the existing wood siding, trim, and detailing, along with in-kind replacement where necessary.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
They were here.
They were here?
He came up and talked to us.
Oh, okay, before the meeting started, yeah. Just for all the hundreds of listeners at home, if you ever need to be somewhere, whether it's a dental emergency or not, and you would like us to shift the agenda around to make sure that you can be present, we're happy to accommodate. Contact any commissioner or Lindsay staff. Is there any neighborhood input for this project?
We received one email from the public that was forwarded along to the commissioners and entered into the record recommending that the siding be retained, but I haven't received any other neighborhood comment.
Okay. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? If not, I'll open the floor for commission discussion.
I'm sorry. I noticed that the people, I think maybe the applicants that were here, they might have been confused by the rearrangement of the agenda, and they may have thought that it was already denied. So it might be worth postponing and seeing if they were here and left, because some people did leave earlier.
Did you speak with them?
I did not, no, but just if they think that they were already denied and they left under that assumption, I would hate for them to, find out that it was actually discussed. Just
appreciate that. Considering that, we could look at postponing this item just for that reason that we did rearrange the agenda, and that might have deprived them the ability to speak to our commission, whether it be confusion or
I think
essence of
that's
time.
fair. I think we should give them a chance to come back and talk to us.
Okay.
Might not change the outcome, but at least they have the opportunity to talk to us.
Okay.
Lindsay, is that?
That's totally appropriate as the commission's decision. I do know the applicant was excited to move forward, but they may not have understood what was going on. So.
Okay. I'll make a motion to postpone for 30 days, allow the applicant to come back and meet us one-on-one next time.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
And we have a second, if I don't interrupt. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next, we will go to 2038 Jefferson Avenue.
Right. This case includes after-the-fact review for the demolition of a contributing garage, a new shed, and a new rear deck, and the installation of a new driveway, which has not been completed. The circa 1910 garage was demolished in 2015. The new 20-foot wide by 30-foot deep concrete driveway is proposed in the location of the existing gravel driveway and will be accessed via Polk Street. The small shed was installed from 2015 to 2016 and is placed on the west side of the house, 10 feet from the side lot line. Features an exterior of engineered wood panels and is raised up on concrete blocks at the corners. The applicant is proposing to reclad the shed with fiber cement lap siding with an in-kind exposure to the house. The rear deck was installed from 2023 to 2024, and it measures 18 feet wide by 12 foot deep. It is raised 4 feet off the ground with a 3.5 foot tall hand railing with balusters affixed to the rails, and it is made of pressure-treated wood. 2038 Jefferson Avenue is a contributing structure to the local overlay and the National Register District. The after-the-fact scopes of work were completed by 2 previous property owners and were identified by plans review and inspection while reviewing an interior alteration permit. The new driveway is in the same location as the existing gravel parking pad that previously led to the demolished garage. Although guidelines recommend that new parking be accessed from the alley when available, the proposed parking is appropriate because it reflects the access used for the demolished garage is located at the rear of the house and would not require a new curb cut. The size of the shed is appropriate, but it does not currently meet guideline recommendations for placement or materials. The proposed addition of fiber cement lap siding in kind to the house addresses the inappropriate existing engineered wood siding. Relocating the shed would make it more visible from Polk Street, as it is currently minimally visible due to the fencing and trees in the front yard. The rear deck is compatible in size with the primary structure and could be removed without adverse effects. Its railing does not feature balusters set into the top and bottom rails, and the contemporary deck design is not specifically compatible with the overall design, material, and detail of the primary structure and its ornate porches. Similar decks have been approved in the overlay prior to the adoption of the current guidelines in 2025. Although the contemporary deck is screened by fencing, the top of the deck is visible from Polk Street. Trim pieces could be added to give the appearance that the balusters are set in the top and bottom rails, but this would have a minimal effect on the streetscape and on the deck's compatibility with the primary structure. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 4A26HC, subject to the condition that cladding the shed in fiber cement lap siding with in-kind exposure to the house to be approved by staff.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? They also left. All right. Yeah, we really made a mess of things. Is any input from the neighborhood on this project?
No.
Commission discussion?
Oh, okay. Hey, Austin, are you on Zoom? And would you like to speak to the application? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
All right. Staff just went through the report. Did you have anything to add to the application? And if you could say your name and address for the record. Sorry.
My name is Austin Magno. We're the general contractor on the permit application.
Address for the record.
Our company address or the project address?
Whichever you choose.
Our office address is 717 North Central.
Thank you. And did you have anything to add to the application?
No.
Okay, thank you. And we did not receive any neighborhood input. Any members of the public here that wanted to speak on this item? If not, we'll open up the floor for commission discussion.
I have a question about the placement of the shed. In the guidelines, there's a pretty cool picture showing how we can kind of line sheds up with the alleyway, and it specifically says not to put them like right next to the house or adjacent to the house. I was curious why this particular spot may have been chosen.
Yeah, this shed was already placed on the property by the prior homeowner. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Would you be open to relocating it?
It's a possibility, yes.
Yeah, I don't, without neighborhood input, I know that's a tricky thing to just enter into the discussion. It is something that I wish maybe had been called out a little sooner. Sorry about that.
I appreciate Commissioner Randazzo's input here about the guidelines and their advised placement. This is a corner property, so it's not going to align perfectly even with our most recent and I would say our most clear set of guidelines. So I'm okay with the proposed placement as existing. Commissioner Blackburn stepped out. Someone else will have to make the motions.
I'd like to make a recommendation to approve based on staff recommendation, or make a motion, sorry.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next we'll move to Fort Sanders, 1803 Clinch Avenue.
Okay, so this is a new building to be, so this is the postponed case from March 2026, and just in a very brief summary, this is a new building that will be constructed to the rear and left side of the existing house. The new building is that L shape. It is 3 stories tall, and it has an exterior clad in brick veneer to match the primary house and a roof clad in asphalt shingles. So the revised proposal features a hipped roof with an 8/12 pitch to reflect the primary house. There is a second option also included in the application with a gable roof. The revised elevation features projecting bay windows clad in brick siding on the second story and clapboard style siding on the third. And so we can run through those elevations, but some of the staff findings I will also unpack. So the proposed project, this is a new building that is adjacent but not connected to the primary historic house. The project is significantly larger than a typical addition, and the placement is not typical for new construction on a vacant lot. So the design guidelines don't address this type of project because the new construction guidelines envision more common scenarios where new buildings are directly oriented to the street instead of wrapping around an existing building, and then additions that are secondary to the primary building. Overall, the guidelines are based on historic preservation best practices, neighborhood input, and principles such as the Secretary of the Interior standards. So the building is proposed for what is described in the guidelines as a large lot. It's one that's 100 feet wide or more, as opposed to the traditional lots that's 50 feet in width. The diagrams for large lot development all depict new construction on vacant lots. This proposed project is a second building larger than the first that wraps around the two. So a stated purpose of the design guidelines is to foster development that's compatible with the historic buildings in the neighborhood. This building is larger in scale and more complex in massing than the original house on the lot. The revised design is no longer smaller in height than the primary building, and the third story is set back from the street on at least 2 elevations. The revised roof line further intensifies the scale and massing of the new building. The building is not compatible with the historic building that's originally on the lot. The roof line has been revised to be more compatible with the primary house. Based on the discussions in the previous application, it now matches the 8/12 pitch with a hip, and then there's a second option with a gable. However, that 8/12 pitch creates a massing that is far larger than the primary house. The revised proposal, the discussion also focused on windows. So the revised proposal features windows that are in more consistent proportions and pane configurations than the initial application. The sizing and placement is somewhat inconsistent on some locations. The projecting bay window massings are large in scale. They're not compatible with the original house, and they add unnecessary complexity to the rear and left side elevations. The revised canted bay windows are not compatible with the original house. So overall, and we can talk about the second options here, and there's a rendering, but while smaller items like windows, siding, and parking may meet the individual design guidelines, the primary issue with the application is the overall form and scale of the second building. The proposed second building on the lot is significantly larger in scale and more complex in massing than the historic house. The guidelines were not written with the intent of accommodating quasi-additions that are larger than the primary house, nor the construction of second primary buildings on lots that already have a primary structure. Minor revisions to windows, roof lines, or siding materials have not proven sufficient in reducing the overall visual scale and massing of the building. In the opinion of staff, the second building does not meet the intent of the guidelines or the overlay and is not appropriate. An actual addition or a smaller secondary building that's compatible in scale, massing, and design, and clearly secondary to the primary house would be appropriate. So staff's recommending denial of certificate 3F26HC.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes. Thank you. Good morning. Logan Higgins, 133 South Gay Street. So this is our third time here with this project. We, of course, came with a workshop and then last month with the actual application. Each time we've been here, we've made adjustments based on the previous discussion, this being the third. Quick summary of that. At the February workshop, it seemed like, we presented a few different options that we were looking at, and the discussion seemed to lean towards what was option 2, and that was a somewhat of what you see now, but with a low pitch, and the intent being to match the other buildings on Clinch, right across the street on the 1700 block. That was the direction that we went with, and what we came with last month was that version, a little bit more refined, but the same version, using a 412 roof pitch. However, last month, the feedback seemed to be that the roof pitch was kind of the biggest problem. Of course, the windows, and we've worked on those to resolve those and those other details. But the biggest thing was the roof pitch, and the staff report recommended going to the 812 to copy the existing house, and then also to meet the recommended minimum with the guidelines. So we did that, and now we're looking at what you see today, and it seems like that compliance is kind of the basis for a recommendation for denial. And as Lindsay just said, the 812 pitch creating a massing far larger than the primary house, which, to be clear, it is still shorter than the house, even with the 812 pitch, but we completely understand that it is a taller massing than with what we were here with last month. And that was part of our concern with going with an 812 was the increase in massing. However, I think that the project meets the guidelines, and I want to go through some of those reasons why. And I think that there's maybe an adjustment that we can make to make it more compliant and hopefully get right in a sweet spot, Goldilocks zone, if you will. So guidelines stated purpose is to foster development compatibility with historic buildings and a compatible blend of old and new. This project, we believe that this follows that goal. The historic house is untouched. And if you look at the page 11 and 12, you can see that from Clinch, from the primary structure, it's mainly hidden, 11 and 12 of our packet. Yeah, it's very much hidden by the portico and the old growth trees. Obviously, I know that trees do not, we're not relying on that, but this is a view, straight on like this, you don't even see it from Clinch. And then and this allows the house to remain as the primary element on here, especially with the side courtyard and the gap if you're looking at it from 18th Street. So I want to focus on one important part of the guidelines, Section A of the guidelines, which talks about height, scale, and massing, because it's instructive. It says, height of new buildings shall be limited by the underlying zoning. We comply with that. It says upper stories should be stepped back at least 8 feet and use balconies. We do that on both of the street-facing facades. And And that is also something that is reflected in some of the nearby houses on the adjacent block. It does not say that a new building must be smaller than or subordinate in scale to an adjacent historic structure on the same lot. And I don't know anywhere that the guidelines explicitly say that anything about another building or an addition having to be subordinate in scale, at least in the Fort Sanders guidelines. Scale and street perception, the guidelines are really focused on the pedestrian experience. The step back third floor, the elevated grade, this and the way it's separated from the house, it is compatible in height and scale with those with the adjacent buildings, and uses a lot of the same massing and proportions of some of the historic buildings on the 1700 block. And of course, looking at the elevations is the most intense view, but even our renderings use some street view imagery that is taken from 8 or 10 feet in the air. The separation, Section 8 talks about a transitional courtyard of at least 200 square feet. We, on 18th Street, have a 300 square foot courtyard between the two. And looking at that is similar to, again, 1700 block, where you see this gap between, the closeness to different houses and proportions of different buildings. It's very similar to all of those proportions. And I think even, the National Park Service Standard 10 talks a lot about preservation of the existing historic and how anything new you do should be able to be removed without negatively impacting the historic. This is not touching the existing house at all. And because of that, it is following that very well, because it can be removed without any impact to the existing house. So back to the roof pitch, I think that this is probably the biggest driver of the discussion, has been and probably will be today. The guidelines recommend a minimum 812 roof pitch to be consistent with historic character in the neighborhood. Again, I've said it a few times, but if you look at the 1700 block of Clinch, there's 11 buildings on that block. One of them is a 6 or 7 story condo building. So let's say 10 buildings of similar scale of this, 6 of those use a 4 or 612 roof pitch. They're all lower pitch. And so we think that following those, that lower pitch, it's matching the development context of the historic development context of this block right here, of this area, even if it's not following the broad 812 rule of the recommendation of the guidelines. Bottom line, I think that our goal is to get to make this project work, and the roof pitch, we're equally happy with copying the 812 of the adjacent of the primary house, or following the context with a lower pitch roof here. And I think that we definitely think that going with a lower pitch roof is the way to go. It minimizes the height of this, of what you see. And it also, again, matches that development context. So I'll wrap up, I know. Staff report noted the guidelines don't specifically address this project type, and absolutely, it's not a new construction on a vacant lot. It's not an addition. I don't think the absence of those provisions are prohibition. The applicable guidelines, setbacks, materials, parking, massing, height, and courtyard transition are all met. The underlying zoning allows it. The guidelines stated goal to compatibly blend old and new does not prohibit development in rear yards. I'm sure that was my
Yeah,
timer.
it's a little bit past time.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, I'll wrap up.
Okay.
We emailed a new, Lindsay, we sent an email with some other views using 4 and 12 roof pitches. I think that is a really great solution to, again, following the context and also having a more minimal scale here. So I'll stick around for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any neighborhood input on this project?
Yeah, Randall DeFord, the neighborhood representative for Fort Sanders, wrote that they are in agreement with the staff recommendation. They appreciate our work. Actually, I'll just pull it up. It said they sum it up nicely, and comment number 12 is right on point.
All right. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? If not, commission can discuss.
Logan, do you happen to know what the lot coverage is with the proposed new construction addition?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I do believe that it's below 50%. It's a pretty minimal amount of lot coverage because of that big front yard. Thanks.
Sorry, Logan, I know you're stepped away. A question. Are you asking us to consider the alternative that's at the very back of the packet instead of what was submitted, or what?
The one at the back of the packet is, I think it's showing a gable at 812, and we're not really fans of that. We think that we're okay with the 812 if you all are, but if you're concerned about the height with the 812 pitch, we do think that going back to a 412 or 612 is significantly better. Lindsay, are you able to pull up the PDF I sent?
We said this to another applicant. We don't prefer to pull up applications or, additional stuff that we received during the meeting while the meeting is going on.
Understand. Yeah.
Sorry, it's a public records.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
a neighborhood, a member of the neighborhood, a member of the public would want to react and speak to that and have a few days ahead of time, things like that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak, we've talked a lot about being secondary to the scale of the primary structure. And yes, that is not specifically called out in the guideline in exactly that wording, but that is in the Secretary of Interior standards, which guide any properties that are listed in the National Register of Historic Places. This particular building the primary structure is a contributing building to a district, so those do apply to it. So that's something to keep in mind. That is still a guidance that we are supposed to be making sure we are following, not just the guidelines, but also the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation.
Thank you. That's a very helpful input. I can add that I appreciate the time you've spent in this project. It shows, including talking to this body twice in official meetings and at a workshop. And I think the design has certainly improved. There's been a lot of good back and forth with the design professionals here discussing windows and arches and materials. And I do think this is better, but I'm inclined to agree with other commissioners here that it's the primary versus secondary. I think it's just too big. To be really frank, I think that's what we're dealing with here. It's a really difficult endeavor to try to design this scale with this lot, and I'm not even sure it's possible with the square footage that you're seeking.
I think they've come a long way since where we started, and they've addressed all the comments that we've had, have they not? I mean, what do we want them to change to make this project viable?
Scale and massing,
Okay.
primary versus secondary. I think that's been my comment from the beginning. You know, I don't speak as much to the other architectural elements as other members of the board. We all bring our different experiences here. But I mean, I can quote a Supreme Court justice again, say, I know it when I see it. And I think this is, like, I know I can see it. Like, this is the overall scale of this, the footprint, the size, it disrupts the harmony of the primary structure.
But as far as the design itself, we're okay with the design. We would just like to see it smaller?
Theoretically.
Okay. What does that, Logan, what does that do to your project and your performance? And I know that that's not our purview, but these are factors that go into making projects viable. So we come back to you and say you need to make it smaller. You come back to us, what's your response?
Yeah, I don't know where that line is. I mean, I know that we can drop the height by lowering the roof pitch, but I guess you could kind of speak to
Joshua
that.
Henson, 558 Mellon. It would crush, it'd kill the project. And the one thing I'd like to just add about the massing, because I do appreciate Mr. Tillman's comments, because you have been very consistent from the very beginning. And this is a very hard thing to do. Like, everything in Fort Sanders is hard. But this particular project has been extremely difficult, and we've spent 5 months working on this, and a lot of money, and a lot of your all's time. So I really appreciate that. We are trying our absolute best to preserve the beauty of the house, because it is absolutely gorgeous, and the inside is even prettier than the exterior, and that's something we are committed to preserving. This is right next to the hospital, so the massing that when you're driving down the road on, well, right now I can't even think about the street, Clinch, thank you. You're not looking at the back of this, you're looking at how beautiful this house and you're looking at the hospital. You will never see the back of this building unless you're driving down 18th. And you'll just see, one little portion of it. When we came to you all from the very beginning, this was never, well, Mr. Tillman, you were the only one who spoke to it. All I ask is that you all consider this, because it will look good. We'll make sure the elements look good, and we'll make sure this looks appropriate. Now, I'm not denying that it is big, but at the end of the day, if we can't make this work, I promise you, no one can. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question, maybe for you, Joshua, or the city. An obvious thing that's making the massing of this larger is the covered parking. What are the parking requirements for a project this size?
Yeah, so the original building, when the applicant came in for a project discussion meeting with staff, we identified the original structure as a duplex that has 2 dwelling units, and the back proposed structure would be a single-family dwelling. It's only 1 dwelling unit. There's multiple bedrooms, but there's only 1 kitchen, and so therefore it's only 1 dwelling unit. So a single-family dwelling has a minimum of 2, and a duplex has a minimum of 2 per dwelling unit, so you're looking at 6 off-street parking spaces, and then there could be a reduction based on whether or not it's within a quarter mile of a Knoxville area transit route.
Thank you.
How many spaces are currently in your covered parking?
I think 5 because of the bus route reduction. Could be fewer, though. I'm sure off the top of my head.
I imagine it's the minimum.
I'm just kind of working this out for myself here. So they fixed the design, or they revised the design for our comments. Have we been consistent and told them you need to bring us a smaller design back? And they've just ignored it? Or are we just now saying, we like the design, but it's too big?
We've had a lot of different comments. I've made mine, and then the workshop, obviously those comments aren't binding. But in the previous discussion, commissioners made points and we all voted we could have all voted for different reasons for postponement. I can't speak to everyone's motivation there.
Right.
I certainly don't think they've been ignoring advice. Again, I think this project has improved tremendously from where it started.
And that's kind of my point, that they've not been ignoring advice, but now we've come to the third meeting and now we're just going to flat out deny it. So there's a disconnect there, I think, from where they've been and where we are now. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. That's why I'm having the discussion.
I do think it's fair for us. I mean, it was a workshop and then one actual meeting that was advertised to everyone for the neighborhood to respond. At a project this scale, I don't think it's unreasonable to see you guys more than a couple of times. And I know that's difficult, but I think it's fair.
To your point, Rick, that's what I've been mulling over myself. I think we gave a lot of feedback, and parts of that feedback have been taken into account each time, but maybe not all of it. And so we're at this, well, I addressed this and I addressed this piece, and that's kind of what that comment 12 was saying. Like, you've addressed all these individual guidelines in all these different ways, but overall haven't addressed the size of the secondary building.
If I could add, we've rewatched the last meeting 3 times and broke it down every single point.
That's half our views on YouTube then.
It's me.
I'm just kidding.
You all have the absolute ability to deny or approve this, and I hope that you all see our work, you know what we're gonna do, and if we can't, I go back to this, is if we cannot make this work, somebody else is gonna, you can't make this work unless you add an addition. You can't make this work unless you add this type of addition. It's gotta be big, it's gotta be scalable. And
So my question would be, if we were to give more time, would another alternative come forward, or this is the best you got, period?
I guess I would ask that you all give us because to be totally honest, the scale has, Mr. Tillman is really honed in on, like, I do not like the scale. And I appreciate that, because that is, we take that into consideration. So we said, okay, we got one of however many that is, so how do we try to present this in a way that we can convince the other commissioners to approve this? And that's why we've gone back with, the other questions now are window sizing and bay windows and the roof pitch. And so we've gone back and we've chewed on, like, how do we make this thing look smaller, feel smaller, act smaller than the primary structure? Because we all agree that primary structure is what everybody wants to look at. I don't want anybody to even know this. That's why the first workshop we proposed reflective glass. It's like, what can we do to make this go away, make this invisible? And this is what, after meeting and meeting, this is what we've come up with. And so we can, if we could have, just pull this back, make this small, I don't know what we could do, but explicit advice really is what we're trying, because I don't want to waste your all's time. I don't want to waste ours. I don't want to waste our money. But we have chewed on this for 5 months now, and we're trying our best with it, really.
I'm going to jump in if you don't mind. I would say, and perhaps I'm wrong, but it sounds like a few of you are kind of mulling over the possibility of another postponement for more revisions. I would just caution you, and I will advise both of you all, there is no guarantee of what you all will do because you don't see those plans in front of you. So as far as what you all are going to propose, I just want you to understand, take their comments, but these are not a guarantee that if you do 1, 2, and 3, it will absolutely be approved. Because again, we don't have plans in front of us. So I don't want to hear that at the next meeting. So just letting you all know that, any comments that you get are meant to be helpful. They're not, guaranteed approvals.
Certainly, thank you.
And we don't approve applications based on how hard of work was went into it, the process. We appreciate the process, and we try to commend when we see it.
Please, I totally get that.
But 20 years from now, someone looks at this building, they're like, how did this get approved? They're not going to watch 4 meetings to see a back and forth. They're going to look at the guidelines and look at the structure.
That is
And
our
that's-
mission statement of our company is we want people to look at this 100 years, when we're all dead and gone, we want people to look at this and say, man, they really thought this thing out.
Yeah. So it's not like a measure of how far we've come. It's not a measure of time. It's not bargaining of if you do this, we like this. It's does this application thumbs up, thumbs down, or God forbid another postponement.
What would be helpful would be if we could see the rendering from the very first meeting and the one now, and I think that you could see how they've addressed the scale. I mean, this is light years. I agree. The first two look like a spaceship landed on it, but this looks more like residential style, and if you can't change the size of the building, this might be the best we get to address the scale. Jennifer, I'll put you on the point, but as a fellow architect on the board, how do you see the scale?
It challenges the primary structure, which, as Haley put it, does kind of go against the Department of the Interior guidelines. That said, I think it has gotten better with its third iteration that we've seen now. It is looking more residential. I know we're not supposed to take into account things that were done during the meeting, but I guess I would like to see the other roof massing that you came up with. Just, I mean, we may not, it may still be a postponement, but then surely we could say, actually, I think 6/12 is really more in the ballpark. Either that, or could we postpone with another workshop? Like you guys meet with us before the next month's meeting. And I mean, again, that's not pre-gaming, it's not a guarantee, but.
I hate to interrupt. I don't think we're permitted to do a workshop after an application has been
never mind.
submitted. Sorry.
No,
I
that's
think
fair.
that's been clear.
But Travis, at the end of the day, you and I will agree, it doesn't really matter what you like or what I like, it's what the guidelines say. So I'm just couching all of my comments based on the guidelines and not on personal preference or style or taste.
Yeah, I would say that she's brought up the most salient point about the massing, as far as that's concerned with the guidelines.
If I could just leave with one thing, I would encourage every single one of you to drive down that street going towards the hospital. And the height of what the original structure sits on is at least 6 to 8 feet above the road. So everything behind it is totally in the background and you will never notice it, especially as you're driving towards the hospital and you see just the massive scale of the hospital. If there's any spot to have a scale of this size, this would be the absolute best location because of the hospital. And I hate to use the hospital as an example, but it's just the reality of this site. And then the height of the original structure.
Yeah, I do have a question, going back to the parking. Is there any way, I believe it's within a quarter mile of Cumberland, and there's access to mass transit on that street. Is there any way they can get down to 0 parking so we don't have any covered parking?
To get it below what the minimum requirement would be, would require a variance, a zoning variance. So I think right now they're at 6 would be the minimum. If they got the 30% reduction, they'd be down to 4.
And so they would need a hardship for that? Is there
Correct.
a hardship that they could qualify for?
They would have to produce that hardship.
I mean,
they would come to us and say, you're creating a hardship for yourself. That's,
yeah,
and
right.
we would be.
I don't condone that, but I do think, like, I'm very new to this board. I don't look at financial decisions in making approvals. I also look for guidelines, and I think this is the first time we've discussed the Department of Interior guidelines as far as massing. And I do feel like it's, I see what you're saying about the hospital. When I go down that street a couple times a week, and I feel like the hospital ends right there and the neighborhood begins. And so it's hard for me to compare the scale of the hospital that's next door to this, because they're completely separate.
Certainly.
We would be also okay with postponing again if that is an option to come back with those lower roof pitches, because I do think it drastically lowers that scale on the proposed building.
One comment, and I don't know if this was already taken into account, but in regards to the parking, I think it doesn't count towards your square footage if it's above ADA parking. Are you already taking that into account? Because you could maybe lower the structure and build that over the ADA, and then the stair stepped potentially could make it seem like a smaller scale, even though the footprint would be larger.
So like coming towards 18th Street a little bit more, but creating more of that stepping? Is that what you mean?
Yes. I talked with OISK Architecture, was doing something like that in the fort.
Okay, yeah, we'll look at that.
Thank you.
We've brought up a possible postponement. Staff recommendation is denial without prejudice. Does anyone care to make a motion?
Denial without prejudice means they could not come back for 1 year? No. Or it does not?
Denial without prejudice
Without
means they
prejudice.
can come back
Correct.
next
Okay.
month if they wanted to.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just making sure. Clearly, I've muddled things today.
It's all right.
But if we were to deny, would they still, a postponement would still be more straightforward as far as like what's already in the system and the process, right?
Postponement does not require a new application or any, changes.
I will make a motion for a postponement, 30 days.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I don't think Commissioner Rondez's light was on, but we got a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all so much. I know this is hard. Appreciate you.
No problem. All right, next we're going to move to 4th and Gill, 621 Eleanor Street. No? Oh, sorry. I'm about to skip something. Sorry. All right, we are still in Fort Sanders, 1209 Forest Avenue.
Okay, so this is a new front porch and a new front yard driveway. And so the front porch will be 20 feet 8 inches wide by 5 feet 4 inches deep on the left side. It uses the existing porch's overall footprint with a half-hipped 4/12 pitch roof clad in asphalt shingles, square wood posts on square brick columns with concrete caps and a square wood railing. And then the application also includes a new front yard driveway. So the existing driveway, which you can see in this sort of shaded area here, will be removed the existing driveway is here, and then they will make a new driveway. So the existing front driveway will be removed and graded, and then they'll make a new curb cut at the street edge to extend to a new front yard driveway that's located in the front yard on the right side of the house. The application included something that was approved administratively. This was a rear parking pad area, so that was approved as a level 1, a new rear parking area with a retaining wall. So the rear parking area clearly meets the design guidelines. It was approved administratively. The front porch also meets the design guidelines. The front driveway does not meet the design guidelines as it uses more front yard space for parking than the existing driveway. It will break up additional curb and sidewalk space to provide street access, and it locates additional surface parking in front of the house, where a new parking area that does already meet the design guidelines is already approved and will be created behind the house. So staff's recommending approval of the front porch and denial of the proposed new front driveway.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Thank you again to start for your guys' time and consideration. Phil Puma, my address here in Knoxville is 508 Union Ave, Unit 305. And my contractors, Matt and Bridget, are here to answer any question from the aesthetics or anything like that, if you guys need that. I'm in reference to two things here. In reference to the front porch, the base of the porch is already there, so there was at one time a roof structure on this porch, and sometime in the history it was removed. So the columns and the bottom piece and the pickets, that's all there, so we're adding just the roof structure to it, and I think it just makes it more curb appeal, kind of matches the historic, other properties that are up and down the street. So that's in reference to the front porch. In reference to the parking, the current parking driveway is there. It is deteriorated, and it's about 60% on my properties. I really can't just fix what's on my property. and because I obviously can't touch the stuff that's not on my property line. So just looking to move it over a little bit so that we can have access and new nice driveway just on our property. We're showing a new curb cut. I guess one of the other things that to take consideration, maybe if we keep the current entrance and just kind of dogleg it left and then just have it all on ours if we were, not wanting another curb cut. I was just thinking of another option there as we were sitting here. But just trying to make it's kind of deteriorating. It's there. There's still going to be parking on it. And I just think from a curb appeal perspective, just a newer driveway. For preference would be the new curb cut and just have it all on our property, but we could dogleg left and do that too, so that we could be just on our property in a new driveway that's not deteriorating. So,
Thank you. Is there any neighborhood input for this project?
The neighborhood is in agreement with the staff recommendation.
All right. Any other members of the public that wanted to speak on this item? We'll open it up for commission discussion.
I have a question. So it sounds like the existing driveway is still going to be in use because it shares it with another neighbor?
Yeah, it's there. So it's just everyone, when you get there, you use it and just share it. The house next door has been demolished, and my understanding is, from what I've heard from the town, is they're building a pretty big house next door, and they said they have no use for that driveway, so we're probably just going to use it as is. But that's my understanding. Again, I'm not 100% sure what the plan is on the project next door, but I know it's a fairly big building. It sounds like that they're building. I'm not sure where they're putting parking or if they're even doing any parking. I'm not sure what's going on next door.
I have a little input on that. From what I heard from the builder
Can you
next
state
door.
your name and address?
My name is Matt, 6908 Terry Drive, Knoxville. I talked to the builder next door, and he said that structure they're putting in there, I'm pretty sure it's going to be commercial. I don't know, but it may be several stories high, and it's literally going to butt up against that driveway. So.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the commission approved new construction on that lot back in November 2025, and it was a single-family house with lots of bedrooms, and the only parking that they had on that project was at the rear of the lot, accessed via a named alley, and I believe they're installing retaining walls near that shared property line.
So what we have is a curb cut that's on the property line, essentially?
Yeah, it's probably split kind of 50-50 down there at the beginning, and then if you can see the driveway at the end is probably about 100% on mine. So it starts 50-50 and then just feathers into ours. So it's like the entrance is on theirs, and it just kind of, most of it is on. It's probably 60-40 when you look at the whole driveway, because we have it surveyed and it's marked out. You can see it.
The dotted lines right here is the original.
Yeah, the dotted to the right is the current original.
Do you have a driveway agreement easement with that property owner?
There's nothing. It's kind of like, from my understanding, it's first come, first serve. You just get there and figure it out when the other houses were there over the years.
I see. Yeah, that happens a lot in historic neighborhoods. I have a question for Mark. If they were to have a shared driveway agreement, would this be a pre-existing and non-conforming driveway that they could repair or replace in the same dimensions as it currently exists? And maybe we would have to review both properties in a case like this? Or second part we can discuss later, but.
So it would be, we would have to look back in the records and see if the driveway ever had a permit, and see historically how it looked from KGIS. If we weren't able to determine if it was ever legally permitted, then we would use our best judgment, come up with an interpretation as to which driveway it is. And then, yes, there would have to be some kind of easement if it went across both. If they wanted to do any kind of further improvements, things like that, they would have to have both parties' permission.
Would that easement be submitted to your department for a permit?
It would, and our engineering staff would review that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then currently, this plan's in plans review currently, and engineering has some unresolved comments, and some of that may result based on the city ward map. It doesn't look like this lot is platted in the configuration that the ward map was a bit.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Yeah, it doesn't look like the deeded property line is in the same configuration as the city ward map. So there are some property lines that are running across the ward map.
Ward map is never wrong, so.
So there's a few engineering concerns that they're still having to work through, and ultimately it's up to engineering staff on the driveways.
Would they be waiting on historic zoning approval first, or would that be we approve based on engineering approval?
So we wouldn't issue a permit until they had a COA, because there's more work involved in this. And so the whole permit would wait until there was approval from the COA. And I think the COAs typically say meet engineering standards. So.
So the application in front of us doesn't describe using the old curb cut, but say it were, we could theoretically approve that reuse of existing curb cut and driveway layout provided by the applicant pending engineering approval. Legal process, I think that's how that would work.
I think so. So right now there's a comment in the plans review that says the driveway and curb cut width are below the minimum required. Please revise. And so they are providing additional revisions to what their plan was to address that comment. It just has not been reviewed as of today.
Okay.
And I think as long as it's subject to engineering approval, I think it's fine, yeah.
Would we see both properties as an application? Because it does affect the other property, wouldn't it? Maybe that's a level 1.
In terms of level 1, we approve parking that meets the design guidelines. So when the applicants wanted to have their rear parking access from an alley approved, we approved it because the guidelines say provide parking access off the alley or a side street. They also say the front yard space shall not be used for parking. Do not break up curbs or sidewalks to provide street access. Surface parking area shall always be to the rear of the building. So this was one that we couldn't approve administratively. So it wouldn't be a level 1.
Okay. Thank you.
I think from that standpoint, as proposed, it does not meet the guidelines. And so either we approve and say it does, or, we're okay with it not meeting the guidelines, or we uphold the guidelines, regardless of everything going on in the other space, just for clarity.
If we were to approve the recommendation for the front porch and deny the front driveway, could the applicant come back with a revised driveway plan, say utilizing existing curb cut, or
Deny without
They could,
prejudice.
deny without prejudice.
Okay.
Was that, approve the porch and then just come back on using the current curb cut and kind of doing it like a dog leg left?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
Okay.
imagining here.
Okay.
Again, we'll have to see that.
Correct.
That's not something we can just be like, yeah, just move the driveway.
No,
and
I
out
understand.
the door.
I understand.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else? If not, I'll enter a motion. I move to approve the front porch and deny without prejudice the proposed front driveway.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote on this. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Quick question on that. Do I just resubmit the same process, just that?
That's
that part?
correct, but you can revise it.
Okay, and it's like
And then you will
next
submit it
month's meeting, is that how it works?
It depends on when you submit the application, but
Okay.
yeah, and we have our meeting dates and deadlines on our website, and I've
Okay.
sent them to y'all, to your contractors before.
But
Perfect.
If you were to miss that deadline, you could come back in 2 months theoretically. That's your purview.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're moving on to 4th and Gill.
4, 5. Okay, nobody else can leave.
All right, we're losing commissioners.
We still do.
We still do. All right, everybody else is locked in. All right, to 4th and Gill, 621 Eleanor Street.
All right, this case includes the demolition of a historic shed and the installation of a new shed. The new shed measures 12 feet wide by 14 feet deep and will be placed at the rear of the lot. It features a front gable roof with eave overhangs, an exterior of wood board and batten siding, a block foundation, a wood window on the rear elevation, and wood double doors on the front. 621 Eleanor Street is a contributing structure to the local overlay in the National Register District. Although the shed proposed for demolition is not listed as a contributing structure, it was likely constructed around the same time as the house and appears on the 1917 Sanborn map. The shed is in poor condition. The roof is bowing inwards. The building is collapsing, and there are sections of rotted wood. In the opinion of staff, demolition is appropriate because structural deterioration makes the building unsafe. The new proposed shed features a similar design, placement, and size to the existing, although it lacks the rafter details and gable bracket detailing. The proposed wood, board, and batten siding, window, and door materials correspond to materials on the house. So staff is recommending approval of Certificate 4D26HC as submitted.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Do you have anything to add? Okay. Applicant said they have nothing to add. Don't need to march to the podium for that. Any neighborhood input on this item?
They are in support of staff recommendation.
In support?
Yes.
Neighborhood support.
Name and address for the
Jeff
record.
Tallman, 616 Luttrell Street. Of the 7 billion people on the planet, I'm the only one who looks at this piece of property in the shed, and I'm fully in supportive of it. I've not colluded or spoken with my neighbor about what his intent is. I will only observe that the requirement that he take something that was built in 1917 and move it back to a 5-foot setback now is a collective diminishment in our community. I'm not advocating on his behalf, or I have no idea what he's looking to do here. But if it's a clubhouse, I hope you'll invite me to activities. But the reality is this is where a modern, looking through a modern prism, reduces the capacity and the utility of that building. If a retiree wanted to work in the building and make Christmas ornaments on the side, or have a machine shop for their lawn cutting business, the capacity of this building is being reduced. I support it in terms of what you're contemplating today, but I just wanted to throw that out there because there's a big discussion in the community about affordability and about land use and utility and everything else. So thank you.
Thank you. Any commission discussion?
Motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm voting. And any opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you, commissioners, for also sticking around. I know, we got one more. All right. We are at 616 Luttrell Street.
Issues. Okay. So this is the proposed new sunroom addition, new carport, and new secondary structure. So there is a new sunroom that will be located on the rear elevation below the deck, be 12 feet by 18 feet, and it's constructed of aluminum frame with glass windows. The sunroom will rest on a concrete slab foundation. The applicant has provided some sort of renderings and then elevation drawings and a site plan. And then the application includes a new carport that will be 18 feet wide by 12 feet deep with a shed attached both beneath a 2/12 pitch shed roof clad in standing seam metal to match the house. You can see some drawings here, and I can zoom in as we discuss. So this was a non-contributing resource to the historic district and the overlay. The building has been fully reconstructed, and it's new construction. Based on age, the property remains non-contributing. The sunroom uses a small footprint. It'll be recessed below the existing deck. The deck was previously approved alongside the exterior rehab. The similar addition to a historic house may not be approved as it is not necessarily identical to that overall footprint, but it is a non-character defining elevation of a non-contributing building. It won't be visible from the street, and it is largely transparent. The guidelines recommend simple one-story garages that reflect the roof shapes and wall coverings of primary buildings on the lot. The shed will use a wood siding to reflect the primary building. The final design and exposure should reflect the house. The shed roof does not use the house's hipped roof. However, the cladding will reflect the house, and the intent is to repurpose some steel beams that were salvaged from the site. A carport is not typically a historic form approved in the overlay, but it will be recessed behind the primary house. It's transparent due to the nature of a carport, and it'll use materials similar to the house. And then final site plan should meet city zoning and engineering standards, and major revisions would require further review by the HCC. So staff's recommending approval of certificate for H26HC, subject to the condition that the site plan meets city zoning and engineering standards, with final major revisions that would require further review by the commission, and then wood lap siding on the shed to reflect the design and exposure of the primary building.
Thank you. Applicant, do you have anything to add?
I guess a carport conjures up a lot of different images in people's minds. It's less a carport than it is just a shed, a protection for automobiles and a garden shed for tools, for tending my little garden, a place to put my canoes out of the weather. So anyway, just for purpose of clarification there.
All right, thank you. Any neighborhood input on this project?
Aaron Streeter, the neighborhood representative, said they are in support of staff recommendation.
Okay. Commission discussion?
I would like to make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Any further business?
No, that's it.
Move to adjourn.